Hello, Freaky Frighteners. You got the Brewster here for an episode of Brewster Vision presents Brewsteria, and I am with the maker of Spookies, Street Trash, and the Seltzer Zombie from Dawn of the Dead, Frank Farel. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. No, I appreciate you making time for us. I'm looking forward to this for a while.
Well, I hope I can make it worth everybody's while.
No, you're good. You're good. We met through Chad, a previous Brewsteria guest, and he's a cool dude, so we got to give him a shout out and thank him for setting this up. So
yeah, well, I appreciate you asking me on. I mean, I really make every effort to do every interview or podcast I can. You know, if people want to talk to me and I have the time, I'm very happy to.
No, we really do appreciate it. This is huge for me, so I can't stress it enough. So like elephant in the room, man, we talked about this before. What do you got?
Wait, what? Bring that back. Which version is this?
This is a very bare bones version I got back in 2018. It's just the movie.
This may be. Do you know? Is there a company name on the back of it?
No, it's literally just the two separate covers. The very bare bones.
Remember correctly, I think that may be the Canadian bootleg.
Probably.
Except no, it's not. It's a Blu-ray. There was a Canadian DVD out before the Blu-ray came out, and I knew it was when I saw it being marketed online. I said, "All right, this is somebody's bootlegging it and pretending it's some kind of a restoration," which it wasn't. They just got there were several 35 millimeter prints that circulated for years, probably still are circulating.
Yeah.
But they did their own edition. They claimed it was the uncut, complete version, which it was not. And then because I was curious about it, I actually managed to get a hold of the guy who released it. And when I told him who I was, he panicked. That was it was hello, I'm suing you. No, but I said no. I said go. I don't have a problem with what you're doing. I mean, the fact is, I unfortunately do not retain any percentage of profits or anything. So the fact is that it's not going to hurt me. It's only going to help me the more people that see the film. But it was definitely an actual bootleg, and I was just surprised that somebody did their own film transfer to get it out there.
Well, I remember I told a lot of my guests this. When I was a child, my uncle owned a video store, and I'd spend my entire days when my mom was working there and she was, kind of babysitting me in the horror section. And I never saw this as a child, but the cover always freaked me the fuck out. And
right.
Then I think back in like 2010 or something like that, just kind of looking up old 80s horror movies, and I came across it, and just the amount of different kinds of monsters and stuff in it. And I felt terrible when I talked to you on the phone the first time and mentioned that I love that movie, and you told me that you're part of the original backstory of it, that, the bad shit. I'm like, well, fuck, I feel stupid now. I should just hang up the phone, This call's over, right?
No. I mean, the fact is things sort of came full circle and righted themselves in recent years in that, initially the film, myself and my two partners walked out of the cutting room because our backer was just on our throats about everything.
Yeah.
And we just didn't, we got to a point where we just felt helpless to have any ability to reason with him. And so we left. He couldn't, there were special effects. There were some fairly involved effects in the climactic scene originally, which we shot all the live action portions of, and there were going to be opticals of ghosts and demons running around. None of that got done, which was supposed to be, handled by a member of our crew. And we ultimately walked off the project, which, believe me, we didn't want to do after having been involved with it for close to a year and a half.
Yeah,
but it was just too it was destructive ultimately to us, and we left him with a film that he didn't know how to complete. Couldn't he knew he could. He went to the optical houses locally, I assume, and when they said, "Oh, this is going to cost X many thousands of dollars," he vetoed that. and he spoke to the nearby local pornographer down the hall, which was not hard to find because we were in an editing house that was in the midst of just off of Times Square, was full of all kinds of films, and a big part of filmmaking in New York at the time was X-rated movies, which were still being shot in 35 millimeter and that had theatrical releases.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know, or maybe, I'm assuming people don't know. I guess it's wrong for me to assume, but the movie originally started out called Twisted Souls, correct?
It was written as Twisted Souls. It was also, we had an idea already that we wanted to do with a movie that also took place in a house like that, but it was different. It was more sort of to the point. There was one monster. It was a large demon, and but we had a much better script. We had a chance to think about trying to do it halfway right. With Twisted Souls, when we finally said yes to the guy who was basically questioning us about everything up and down to make sure we weren't going to waste his money.
Yeah.
We said, all right, well, we have this script we think is okay, and he wasn't interested at all. He specifically told us from the start he said, I want a movie just like The Evil Dead. I wanted to have this. I wanted to have people run to a closet and there's a monster, and people open a door and there's another monster. And we realized that he wanted something essentially like that, not exactly Evil Dead, but close enough in intent. And we weren't too thrilled about that, but we immediately started writing it. And I feel like it's not the way I would ever choose to make a movie again, meaning we immediately started putting the script together. We had a script about 2 weeks later. We gave it to him. He thought it was fine, and getting him to approve of anything was not easy because he didn't like to read. He had us read him the script. So there were several occasions where he had to be read the entire screenplay face to face, just so he would grasp what was going on. And he eventually, said, "All right, it's a go. Let's do it." We signed a deal with him. Our contracts basically were very simple. There were a lot of legal jargon, but it basically said, "All right, fuck you. You're making a movie for me. You're getting credit. That's it." And we got a little money, but it wasn't a hell of a lot of money.
Right. So this seemed like it was pretty much cursed from the start for you.
No, not so much. The film industry is like that. People make all kinds of. You're a filmmaker, especially you're getting a shot at your first theatrical feature, and somebody's money. You'll do almost anything. You will literally do almost anything. There's a movie called The Demon Lover from the 70s.
Oh my God! Wait! Was that the one where every time he got horny, he would turn into a demon? And
No. That's another film called The Demon Lover.
I know that one. It had the guy from Family Ties in it.
The Demon Lover done in the 70s was really, tiny budget, 16 millimeter. But the fact is, at some point, they ran out of money. And the director, and he told this story years later, but he actually cut off one of his fingers, claimed it was an accident, and collected insurance on it to finish the film.
You're kidding me.
Well, and I can understand that kind of thinking, but for that film, I can't understand it.
Okay, well, fair enough. Hopefully, you have all 10 of your fingers.
There's also a documentary that exists on the making of that called Demon Lover Diary.
And it's about cutting his finger off?
No, I believe that story is told in the course of the documentary.
So going back here, it was not your intent, or you didn't want all the random different monsters showing up throughout Spookies.
The main thing is we thought we had a better script already written, and he suddenly said, "All right, here's what I want," and so we had to basically supply his laundry list of what he wanted in his idea of what a movie should be that he was very firm about. And it's not that we had any. We could have written anything about any premise at that time. If he had come in and said, I want a movie about poultry, it's like the first 2 hours are baby chicks being hatched. We would have jumped on it, because it was somebody was giving us money for a movie.
Fair enough. So, all right, let's move on from that for a little bit. We'll come back to the other topic we discussed off camera beforehand. I had just recently discovered this actually the day that I talked to Chad on the phone and got in touch with you or whatever. Street Trash. Now,
Right.
I have some bad news, and I'm ashamed to admit here. My copy freezes right after the scene where the bum is basically hooking up with the ritzy chick.
Oh,
So I had
wow.
not finished this movie. So
You try cleaning the disc or anything, or
I did, yeah. So I'm probably just gonna have to reorder and watch it again. But I do own it. I got it the day that I met Chad.
how long ago did you buy it before you watched it?
It was at the convention.
Oh, so it's recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I wanted to be upfront with you about that, so I wasn't coming off as like claiming I'd seen the full movie, but I was just talking shit. I think about half of it, but then it froze, and it wasn't just one of those spot moments because I couldn't.
Is that Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Recent Blu-ray. Okay. Yeah.
Special Meltdown edition. But I loved what I saw of it. So, what was your role in that one?
I came in. I was brought in by Roy Frumkes, who was the author of the script and who was the key producer in terms of raising the finance for the film. He brought me in as the production manager and, essentially, what do they call it? A line producer. I was there basically supervising on set everything that happened with the film. I had to, go through what we needed day by day, give a request for whatever our expenses were or whatever we needed to do, and then make sure everything was being done, which was not that hard because our offices were at an auto graveyard.
Yeah.
That was where we shot at least half the movie.
Now, did you cameo in this movie? Did I hear that correctly?
Did I cameo?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It's not quite. I don't know if it's a cameo. A cameo is usually something that like you see a moment or two and it's gone. I have a whole scene. It's on many lists of the best castration scenes in movie history. Which is an amazing thing because when I first saw that list, I couldn't. I was astounded that there were other castration.
So I'll shout this out for my buddy Rick. I have another podcast I do. It's called The Whole Damn Enchilada, and at the end of the year, he was doing an awards show or whatnot. And this was in October. We talked about it. But we ended up going about 15 minutes essentially just talking about zombie dongs because there was a lot of zombie dongs in horror movies that came out in 2026.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can maybe just send you the clip order, but we ended up going on.
I applaud that only because I like animals, and almost every script I've ever written, there's an animal that has a key part, a cat or a dog.
Yeah, we went on about 15 minutes just talking about zombie dogs, and that's become our long-running joke there. So my point to it being is that when you mentioned that you're surprised there's a list for castration and shit like that, there could be a list for just about anything, my friend.
Oh, no, well, nowadays, yes, especially if you have a website that needs constant refreshing of material. But now AI and all the stuff you see on YouTube, I mean, I get kind of worn out by that because I'm like an information junkie for movies and other things. And you get all these things now that are like, oh, here's this fascinating story that is totally destroyed in the telling because it's all AI and nobody fact checked anything or whatever. It's really frustrating in some cases.
So you're not a fan of AI?
No, I have mixed feelings about AI. I'm using AI right now with part of what I'm doing. I did the concept art for my new project using AI and was shocked. And I did this a couple of years ago, but really shocked at how close to what I was asking for I was getting. And my feeling is, as many people have already said, AI is a great tool. It shouldn't become like your master or the thing that you depend on because you're not creative, which is, I think, how most people are using it because, it's like anything else. When you get a filter that can change your photographs or something else, people think, oh, I'm doing something creative, when in reality, it's just something that is coming from another source that you're sort of telling, yes, do this or do that. And however, with AI, there's a lot more chance to bring it down to the last detail.
Yeah.
So I feel to me, AI has been so far like having a sharp assistant working with me who can do stuff I can't do or can't do easily.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be told how to tell a story. I might be need to told how to get something into a visual image, into something for business, whatever. I mean, I don't mind getting suggestions.
So you're like me, then you believe that technology deserves to exist, but that people could go overboard with it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why a lot of people, a lot of artists, and just even people who feel it's unethical or very offended by it feel, oh, well, AI just steals from every artist who's ever had any artwork appear on the internet.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's true. But I mean, I also, I've come to look at it as one thing is it's like, I mean, AI is essentially doing what any artist or creator who does anything is doing in the first place. It's like a lot of what they're creating is coming out of everything that's in their mind, which includes other people's, films and works of art and other things that they've absorbed and liked or disliked and maybe been influenced by or whatever. So every individual human has that going on to some extent. The difference with AI is that technically it's has more or less complete access to almost everything at its fingertips.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think it's going away. I don't know what the future is for people who do things by hand.
Yeah, I'm fuzzy on it because it can be helpful. Like spell check is great, except when you actually need it to work.
Spell check was around long before AI.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like I worry about, and this is for myself included, that it can make people too lazy. You know what I mean?
Well, people aren't too lazy to begin with, and and I'm bothered I mean, and I've seen this in many cases. One example I'm thinking of is there's this guy who's a supposed filmmaker, like totally bombastic and full of himself, egomaniac, and I kept him on my Facebook friends list just to see his posts because they became more insane week by week. He would just brag and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Oh, I got a distribution company. Oh, I've got 27 films in production. I've got, next summer is my summer, and on and on. And then each time he posted one of his AI created posters, he'd say, my new artwork. It's like, I don't know who he thought he was fooling, except he did, it seemed, have a lot of actors and people who were, trying to get a foothold in the business who were falling for his line of gab. And the most interesting thing is that I kept waiting for him to self-destruct because no one could pull all this shit and come through with it, certainly. And he disappeared from Facebook last week. So,
oh, did he? No, I have a few of those as well. I keep them on there just to, I mean, not in the biz, but just past people or whatever who I would kind of let on there for a while just to kind of see, just to watch them, kind of spiral. I can make Dick Fucker when I want.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see someone like that, because this guy he was on my Facebook list for like a couple of years because I was just digging, seeing what kind of nonsense he would say every week, and it got more and more ridiculous. So I was having fun with that. But I'm surprised people are still in show business. People will always fall for bullshit when they think they're going to get something. It's so hard to get any kind of a foothold to do anything. But in this case, somebody was really going overboard.
Yeah, my experience, it seems like a lot of people just want to be right, and they will fight tooth and nail to reframe their narrative till they, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the way we talk to each other online and through the typing as opposed to actually speaking. It's become very different. And a lot of people are not representing themselves in any actual way. So,
right. That's like I tell people, because I have my other series at Mental Hell, and it's a more serious side of what I do, but it's like to show them that it's not that I'm hiding anything when I post on my page. I'm just trying to make giggles. But what you see there isn't how it is 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing just a small fragments of your life or whatever. You're not showing people stuck in morning traffic or, running out the door late and getting their pocket stuck on the door handle, that kind of shit. They're showing the best moments of their life,
Right. I mean, I just think you have to be aware of that. However, I think so many people, especially those who have grown up with the internet and all the social media, etc., for them, that's a part of the way their reality functions.
Yeah.
So, they're seeing some of these things from a somewhat different perspective. I don't know. I'm just used to everything being a fraud from since I was a kid, pretty much. So it's not like this is that much different. I I think it, on the internet, people get away with things, or did it years ago. I'm surprised that they still get away with some of it. But the scams, etc. I mean, for everybody initially, it was just such a brand new thing. It was such a novelty, and people wanted to check out everything. So,
yeah. Oh, dude, this is like about the 2005 or six, something around there. But I was a late bloomer to the internet. I just didn't see the big hype about it because, a lot of the websites you found were bogus and stuff. But then Wikipedia came along, and that's just a black hole, because I would just sit there like after work and just sit there for hours typing in and stuff.
I mean, my feeling about the internet is if you have an interest in anything, that's where you'll find more of it than you'll find anyplace else. So why not be there?
Yeah, you're not wrong. So before we go too much into this rabbit hole, let's go back a little bit here. What got you? Were you into horror your entire life? Like your passion for it?
Yeah, out of the womb into the crypt. Yes,
into the crypts.
No, not exactly. I started to get into it when I was maybe 12 or 13, probably because I started, as a younger kid than that, I started seeing various monster movies and got fascinated by them, and I think that's the way a lot of kids get into horror. Kids tend to identify with monsters. They feel like, because kids are not part of the adult world yet, and they're still very, uncertain, and they don't have the ability to control things. So I've heard a number of horror filmmakers cite that kind of experience as kids. Like Guillermo del Toro, for instance, is very big on how, like, as a kid, like the monsters is what got to him. So at that age, I started out probably seeing a lot of the old black and white American International movies.
Yeah,
because they on local New York City television, they on ABC, which was a major network, but they had local programming during the week, and so every afternoon at 4:30 they would have the 4:30 movie, where they would jam a movie of any length into a 90-minute time slot before the news came on that night.
I remember that.
So they literally would show, like a week full of, AIP monster movies or whatever. And that got me into it. Plus I saw, I'm between other channels and other movies. That was when I saw like the original King Kong and other things like that. So it made an impression on me. And I didn't, I guess, realize how deeply until I was maybe 12, 13. And I started to get into it a little more seriously, explore it, start to understand, to get interested in just the films and what was how they were made, etc. And then I started reading horror stories at the same time, so it became a real passion, I would say.
Well, I apologize if it seems like I'm nitpicking. I just, when it comes to people and their love of horror, I really like to get into find out why. So if I ask like some real questions, just tell me to stop. But this is like my jam here. So, and from somebody who's actually in the industry too, it's like, what was it about the monsters growing up that drew you to? Mine was just because I like gross out people. I was a kid eating dirt and worms and stuff just to get people to go ew.
Yeah. No, I understand, but as I said, I think it's kids are always just sort of naturally at a certain age, you're fascinated by anything weird or creepy or disgusting or whatever it is. It's just you're still like evaluating stuff like that. It's like, it's not like you're an adult and you have to stop taking any of that seriously.
True. I was going to say some people just kind of outgrow that kind of stuff, unlike people like us.
We do, and then they move on to that dreadful thing called adulthood. So, but I don't think I don't consider myself a child, and I think I deal with the world in an adult way. But I think, especially if you're somewhat creative or you're fascinated by creators of various things, you have to retain a certain amount of childhood fascination. Because that's, when you're a really young kid, like the simplest thing can get you totally enthralled and excited. And that's an important thing to still have.
No, you're not wrong there. I think that's part of what keeps you from growing up fully, is that you have to keep those certain things. Like, dude, I'm 44 years old. I'll still go back once a year and rewatch the Monster Squad.
Yeah, but that's fine. And that's because you connected with that at a certain age, and it had a certain influence on you. So you have not just it's not like it's just a movie you like. You have an actual like emotional connection to it in some way.
Oh, dude, Rudy was my spirit animal growing up.
Yeah.
Well, like what made you decide that you wanted to work on this? Just the passion for it, and just like really wanted to just
make films as opposed to just watching them.
Yeah.
I thought about it, I guess, for a while. When I was probably 13 years old, I got a Super 8 home video movie camera, and I started playing with that. And then I was fortunate a few years later, when I was in high school, I actually had a high school that had an accredited filmmaking program that they had started, and I got into it. And most people went to it for like a year. I was in it for 2 years. I made 2 films that won awards at the state contests and that sort of thing. And I have to say that it was the first time anybody had gotten that excited about something I had created. Yeah. So I naturally, was very seriously considering continuing that.
Are those available? Can we check those out? Check out your early college or high school work?
One isn't. One is. I have a copy of it. I believe it or not, I have one of the people I made it with has, from about the time shortly after we made it till the present day, as I learned not too long ago, he has all kinds of issues with the copyright because he himself. This is a guy. Keep in mind, I was in high school. I made this film when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Right. I wrote the script. I came up with the premise. I starred in it. I didn't direct it, and I worked with like 3 other people from the film class, one of whom directed it. Another co-starred with me, and another was the producer, and put up most of the money, which was like a few $100s at the time. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't know was at the same time he was like thinking far ahead and far more in a far more sophisticated way than the rest of us, in that he actually basically, after having paid for the film, he claimed he owned it because he paid for it, right? And he at the time, back just after I got out of high school, I wanted a copy of the film. He wanted to charge me for making a copy of the movie, right?
The fuck?
He then he threatened to sue me if I did anything with it that I did not have permission for, and et cetera, et cetera. And the guy, of course, later became a lawyer and a filmmaker.
Figure.
and the kind of, it seemed incredibly ridiculous when I was 17 years old. It was like, like you're pulling a legal maneuver on me, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I couldn't get a copy of it then. However, not too long ago, a few years ago, he actually contacted me and sent me a transfer of the film, right? Then when I said, "Oh, would it be all right if I posted this?" I mean, I have some fans of the films I've made afterwards that would like to probably see it. And he wanted to make a deal, and I was going to have to pay him if I wanted to do that. I mean, this is a film that has it has a legacy in terms of a lot of things. It was considered at the time a superior student-made film. It was, I got a great reaction when it was first made, but he somehow has treated it as if it's a legitimate film that has a commercial history that makes it valuable.
I'm totally blown off by that one. This is just some high school movie you made, you said, and then you're getting that much help for trying to get a copy of that?
I've got the copy. I just can't. I would have posted it on my own Facebook page ages ago, but he implied that I couldn't do that.
Can you talk about it? Can you tell us about it? Because I'm really intrigued on this. I like this early work shit. You know what I mean? I'm real big on underground, unreleased kind of stuff. So can you tell us anything about it?
What do you want to know? I mean, it was a simple premise. It was actually, and it was influenced by my interest in horror, among other things. But it was about a mad scientist and his assistant that go to kidnap this guy who has an invention that they want to steal, and they steal it and they test it, and then the police break into their lair and chase them, and that's basically about it. I mean, it was a slapstick comedy. It was like, I would interestingly, I had a pasted on goatee, not exactly like the one I have now, but I had a goatee that was fake, and it was it was scripted, but it was very much improvised. But I mean, we got a very positive reaction to it at the time.
Well, at least you had that going for you.
Yeah, and it was a time also where there was limited avenues that you could take a film like that. There wasn't a whole circuit, and there wasn't like constant. Nowadays, there's student film competitions and short film competitions all over the place every day.
Yeah, not to mention the buku number of streaming apps we've talked about.
Yeah, and the fact is also that now, if you make a film, you want to get it seen. I mean, bottom line, you can just put it on YouTube, and potentially, millions of people could see it.
Yeah, potentially, but I mean, you could also get stuck. I mean, it's a gamble, but if you're willing to risk it and it doesn't cost you nothing, you only got nothing. You don't got nothing to lose.
No, I think that a lot of I frequently see films that are up there that are like recently made films that people could, they made their micro budget movie and it got limited distribution. They probably didn't make much money on it, and then it got sold to one of these companies that'll just stick like lots of basically unknown movies made by unknowns on YouTube. Yeah.
So backtracking still, or staying in the same timeline, or whatever, we had talked on the phone about a week or so ago, and we got on the subject of H.P. Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your first introduction to that one? Because, like I said, I ask a lot of, I nitpick these things. I'm curious.
I got interested in horror movies, which led me right into getting interested in horror literature. I read tons of stuff of all sorts. I read, I was reading like, Ray Bradbury, who I still think wrote some of the best horror and science fiction short stories ever. But I started going back to like, there was a book that I came across around that time called Horror. Had a picture of Lon Chaney as the Phantom of the Opera on the cover. It's a paperback book, and it went into like the whole history of horror and everything. So it gave me all this stuff to look into it, to see, what I could find that would be of interest to me. And Lovecraft was just one of the authors that I found around that time, and he was kind of unlike any other author that I was familiar with, and I kind of dug where he was coming from. I mean, it was very different than the way a typical horror story was told at that time. It was, and I think that had so much to do with his own, peculiar personality, his phobias and obsessions, and it just. What I like about Lovecraft is what his idea of horror makes the other ideas of horror seem kind of mundane and not that upsetting by comparison.
How so?
Well, I mean, he's dealing with like so-called cosmic horror, where you're talking about, all right, these are unknown entities, maybe billions of years old, of incalculable intelligence. They dominated the universe, and they still dominate mankind to this day. And that behind them, all of mankind's religions and magic and other things are somehow tied in with that as something, the most ancient source of all that stuff. I thought it was really interesting, and it's sort of like it's the kind of stuff Lovecraft comes up with. His monsters and his the situations in his stories generally have the final word. Like the main character is telling the story, goes insane or something at the end of the story. He's used that in a number of his stories, and to me, he's trying to say, all right, this was just beyond even human tolerance. It's so horrific. Even though a lot of his stuff, he doesn't tell you exactly what's going on. He just hints at it, but that works, I think.
What's your favorite Lovecraft story? Was it you I was talking to about Dagon, which essentially is the shadow over Innsmouth?
Right. And I told you, I when I was about 14 years old, I actually looked into optioning the shadow over Innsmouth for a movie.
Yeah.
Which would probably have been absurd, but I got one of, and I can't remember his name. You might even know the name if I could remember it right now. I still got the letter, but one of his, one of the people who was put in charge of his estate and his works after a certain time got back to me and gave me a price of like just a few $100s to option it for a year or something like that. And I never went ahead with it, but I think it was kind of brave to do at the time. And the thing is, even if I'd gotten the rights, I wouldn't exactly have known what to do next. But then I also found out, I mean, people started adapting H.P. Lovecraft stories, and a lot of them really nobody bothered to look into copyrights or getting the rights to make a film or anything else, even though a lot of them were still under copyright.
Yeah. Do you think something like that might be in your future? If given the chance, would you do that? Shadow over Innsmouth?
I might. I mean, to tell the truth, people are always asking me if I want to do a short film, and I generally don't, because I feel like that's just sort of it can be a nice exercise and you can do good work, but I keep aiming at feature films because that is really something I think is much more capable of then moving things, advancing whatever your career or your goals are, etc. Whereas most shorts don't get seen by enough people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, before we signed on here, we were talking about some of your other works that you would said, basically just they get flown under the radar or got overshadowed by Spookies and Street Trash.
Well, I wouldn't say no. I don't have so. It's not. I wish I had more works in terms of things that I actually got to the state that we got Spookies and Street Trash in.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked on numerous things over the years. The film, the movie known in America as Dr. Butcher, M.D.
Okay.
Was originally released in Italy and in Europe as Zombie Holocaust. When they released it here, they had just released. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember now. We filmed the Italian cannibal movie Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, absolutely, with Carl York, right?
The guy who had bought the Terry Levine, who was an infamous exploitation distributor in New York City at the time. Very nice guy. But he wanted a new title, so he came up with the title Dr. Butcher MD, and he needed some footage to put under titles that that would lead into the film after he cut in the titles. So I had prior to that, at the age of 19, I was part of and this is something else I did with Roy Frumkes, who was the person who wrote the Street Trash script. He started a project at the State University of Purchase where I was going to school, and he had the idea of let's make a feature film, an anthology horror film, and have students direct some of the stories, and have professional directors with some reputation direct others, and that's what we did. And the film, unfortunately, was never completed. But there were people like Wes Craven was involved and directed one of the stories. Chuck Hirsch, who was the original producer for Brian De Palma's early movies. It was, it was a case where it was a very ambitious project. We were using all the school equipment, etc. But it eventually sort of got shut down. And I think the main reason was that the school kind of felt embarrassed that we were doing it there, and they had nothing to do with it.
So you got screwed on that just because they were embarrassed by it.
I think I don't know necessarily, all the facts, but that seemed to be what was happening because we just had to stop shooting at a certain point, and the film never got finished. It's somewhat known in fan circles. I've had a number of people have asked me if we might ever do anything with the footage, and I sort of in recent years have wondered if that might make sense because we worked on it. Other people with some reputation of one sort or another worked on it, students and established filmmakers at the time. Yeah.
Well, hopefully one of these days we'll get to see that because I'm very intrigued now that there's like unreleased work by that.
Yeah, there's an article. You could probably look it up. And I'm trying to remember the title of it, but years ago, one of the first people to reach out to myself and my partners on the film was somebody who wanted to do a story about this film, which was being made under the title "Tales That Will Tear Your Heart Out." And,
sounds like a Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah, but there's if you look up "Never Got Made," there is an article on a website by a guy who's been a poster on horror groups and such for years, but he did a fairly extensive, breakdown of that was the first attempt to try and figure out what happened with that film. Plus, he touched on Spookies to some extent, and and I had a number of films that were false starts like that, where just the film never really came to its full, completion or potential. My partners who I did Spookies with, we had 3 or 4 projects that got partially made one way or another before getting someone who actually had financing of a more legitimate nature. Prior to that, we were trying to put things together on 16 millimeter with pocket money for the most part.
Yeah. So coming back to Spookies now, because we're coming up to about almost 40 minutes here, and I try to keep get everyone out of here within an hour.
If you're going to shut me up, just give me a moment of warning.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Just let's talk about your anti-sequel you got coming out.
My anti-sequel. Well, yes, that's what I've called the sequel that I have been at work on it a couple of years at this point, trying to get the things, the basics put together. But I have a sequel to Spookies that I've called an anti-sequel because it's basically my reaction, myself and my late partner Tom Doran, who was one of the co-directors of the original Spookies. But at some point, and I, along with him, we worked together for years afterwards, and we kept trying to get various other projects financed. And one of the big obstacles, we had made Spookies, which your first movie, even if it's a bad movie, will usually make it credible that you can complete a feature film and you can get other people to bankroll you. But we couldn't get that. And the reaction to Spookies was sort of unfailingly negative, I would have to say, at the time. No, seriously, because I mean, we could not get people to take us or the film seriously, even though it made decent money. It didn't do fabulous box office, but it did all right at the time. It became known. So it was the first theatrical movie released by the Sony Video Corporation. Mm-hmm. The first thing that they actually put money into, put an advertising campaign together, and they did quite a bit. They I still have like a whole like a 10-minute promo video they did for video dealers at the time. That really like hyping it. And when I first saw it, I was just like, holy shit, they really have faith in this thing.
How long? When did this idea come to fruition to do this?
To do which are we talking?
Spookies 2.
Oh, myself and Tom, I mean, we came up with like many ideas and premises, wrote various scripts, circulated stuff around. I optioned a couple of scripts, well, more than a couple, but I optioned scripts over the years and would, make a little money here and there, whatever. But I really just wanted to get films made, and it's never been easy. I don't think it ever has been.
Yeah.
So I guess Tom and I at some point decided, all right, unfortunately, like it or not, despite all our own problems with Spookies, because it was taken out of our hands and turned into another movie, it's certainly the best known of the things that we actually have worked on and made. And it would be easier than any new project to raise money to do a sequel for that, right? This is before the Blu-ray came out, right? And we faced the reality that it's like somewhat known, and at that time it had started to gain a little bit of a fan following, but it was hard to see. The only version available was the original VHS, which was the first time it was released. I guess it was in 87. The theatrical release was in 86, so I guess it was 87. The actual VHS came out, and we. The film, and it did actually well. It sold well. Sony was very happy, made money, but somehow the film got the reputation as having not made money, to the point where if you go to like the Wikipedia page, you'll still see, well, it only made something like $1,700 in its initial release. Well, that was the figure published in one source from one part of the country at a certain time, and the film made a lot more money than that. I mean, I know that because I have the page from Variety that used to list the top 50 movies at the box office, and it's actually on there one week.
Well, I mean, I'm super intrigued by this. We talked about it. We've talked a couple times about it. Can you tell us give us a small tease of the premise or anything?
The new movie?
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's an anti-sequel. It was designed. It's basically our response and our reaction to what happened to our first movie. So there's a story with. I don't try to hit the audience over the head with it, but there are parallels to, it takes place in a small town that's being ruined by greedy, stupid people, much as our movie was ruined by greed and stupidity. Yeah. So I think it's kind of a knockback at that kind of mentality, but at the same time, it's to say, hey, we can if you actually gave us a chance where we had control over something, we could make a pretty damn good movie. And so far, and I wrote with Tom after years of saying that he was so disillusioned and bitter about everything that happened. He never wanted to have anything to do with any kind of another Spookies movie. He didn't want to write a sequel. And then one day he was just out of the blue. He said, "Oh, I wrote an outline for a Spookies which was hilarious. I mean, I really laughed pretty hard, and everyone told to laugh. But the amazing thing was how good it was. It was really interesting and clever, and it was a total divergence from the main storyline. It sort of uses the main what you call it. Well, I'm not going to say because I want the audience to find this out. But it takes one character that's in Spookies and turns him into a different thing, and the plot just goes off in an entirely different direction. The bulk of the story takes place in the town that the original Spookies mansion was located in, but it's a very different type of a story. It's very character oriented. It's an attempt to make a complete movie. I just feel like the thing people complain about with most horror movies, though, terribly written, that has no characterization, whatever, all this stuff. And so from the start, I wrote it to try and get past that. I have a fairly thought out plot line. I have every character has a reason to be there. I didn't want any characters to exist simply so they could be killed, as is the typical thing. It's like, so a character walks in, the characterization they get is they say hello and act like they know a couple of the other characters, and then they're killed 10 minutes later.
Well, I'm extremely excited for this one, and if you'd be willing to maybe sometime in a couple months or something, come back on here again and update us on the progress of it. If you'd be willing.
I told you I'd send you the promotional stuff on it, which I will make a note to do now.
Yeah, that'll die in my inbox. That won't get out of there. I promise you that. Hold on one second. Get out of there. No. Cat's trying to chew on my cord. Sorry, everyone.
I'm surprised my cat usually will hop right on top of my keyboard here when she wants to be fed, stare at me.
I'm charging the laptop just in case, because it's nothing's more embarrassing than having to stop in the middle of one of these things and plug it in. But he thinks it's a toy, which is ironic because the toys that get him lay in the box and die there.
Yeah, that tends to, unfortunately, that's the usual case with most cat toys. It's like, unless you you happen to get the right thing and it appeals to this particular cat, there's no way to know.
Yeah, every year my mom gets him toys for Christmas. He gets his own little stocking and stuff. I tell her every year, why do you waste your money? He's not going to play with these. He'll look at it, he'll bat it once, and like, fuck it, just walk away from it. Yeah,
I mean, it's like I've been looking to buy. I need to get a new cat tree or scratching post for my cat, because I mean, basically the one that I had, she has ignored for over many years and destroyed a piece of furniture instead. So I just let that go, and now that piece of furniture is almost beyond even use as a scratching post. And I'm hesitant to get another scratching and that she doesn't like.
I was actually going to say before you mentioned that, I was like, I don't need to get him a scratching post. He's got my couch.
Yeah, well, no, that's what in my case, it's an ottoman that I bought when I moved to the place I'm living at now. That now is I look very poverty stricken if you go by that piece of furniture.
Yeah, no, they're freeloading assholes, but he's my buddy, and he's giving me the potty look because he wants his treats. He hasn't eaten in 10 minutes now? You starving? So, well, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't want to put up with it, I wouldn't have a cat in the first place.
Yeah, I know, and I know I'll probably get another one at some point here. So,
there's also the fact that I need to trim her nails, but she's a very nice cat. But anytime I've ever attempted to trim her nails, it's like she becomes in her killing instinct sets them. And I forget it. It's like the minute I even pick, take one of her paws with the intention that I could clip it, she's all over me. Yeah.
He's the same way. He's my buddy. He listens actually really well. And he's one of the rare, the only cat I've ever owned in my 44 years that when he paws at the blanket and you lift it up, he actually will go underneath the blanket. But when it comes down to the nail clippings, I've got Cringer from Masters of the Universe over here turning into Battle Cat on me.
Yeah.
And I can't even fool him anymore with the treats, because usually I would get the treats out and give him a couple like at an odd time of day or whatever. But then he would see me get the separate container that had the nail clippers in there, and then he'd go dart and hide. So I have to shut all the doors in the condo so that he's kind of limited where he runs.
Right. Well, I've been thinking, maybe you've seen this. I've been thinking of getting one of these things you can get to if you want to trim the nails of a difficult cat, where they have little bubbles that you can put over the head and one over each paw, right? And then you're supposed to like take the cat, put it in like a sort of a hammock like thing, and suspend it from like a clothesline or something. And it's like all I can think is, knowing my cat will find some way to not make this work.
Yeah, he's getting up there, and I'm dreading the time where, knock on wood, I've been lucky with him, but I'm dreading the time where he's going to have to, just because, not maintenance, but if he gets sick, take him to the vet and the pill. Because I've tried the kitty burrito. It's where you wrap him up in a towel.
I've tried that too.
It doesn't work.
Well, I think it might have worked if I had somebody else to help me do it, to get a tighter wrap or something. But
I had my last cat. The kitty burrito didn't work, but then I finally figured out how to use those plungers for the pills.
Right.
And the first time I tried it, I got in there and fired it down or whatever, and I did, because usually before, you get it in there, you hold it, and then you let go, and they sit there and they spit it right back out at you. So I was waiting for that. And I was waiting, nothing came out. I'm like, oh my God, it finally worked. It finally worked. And I was like, I still have it. And the thing is like the holy grail on a holy pillow. You know what I mean? Don't ever touch that thing because it's such a godsend.
Mm.
So just food for thought if you ever have to give your cat a pill.
No, my cat's been like quite healthy, I have to say.
So is mine, but I think I just jinxed it by talking about it.
Yeah. I've had a couple I had to put down, and it's never a pleasant experience.
No, let's not do that, because I've been there for about 2 or 3 of them myself. So let's not end this on a down note.
Yeah. We'll talk about killing people instead.
That's better. See, let's talk about that. All right. So yeah, we're almost to an hour here, so I think I'm gonna let you get out of here. Unless there's anything else you wanted to go over or questions or anything.
Well, not much, except that I've got plans to get out to a lot more horror conventions in the near future. I've now got 2 representatives who are looking to book me at places. I'm doing. I have a small. I'm still trying to confirm this, but I'm supposed to be doing a small convention for a friend of mine who also works with me as an assistant. He had his name legally changed to Zombie.
Nice.
And he's a good guy. He's been very helpful to me, and so he's been doing some small events up where he lives in Rhode Island, and he invited me to guest at this one coming up next month. And now I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get there, because he's got a limited budget.
Well, keep me posted on that. And if you get everything confirmation, I'll share it on my page and give you a shout out and stuff, so people can check it.
Around the end of June, I'm doing FrankenCon in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay. The end of June?
Yeah.
I'm writing that down. Yeah, keep me posted on that one. I'll share that stuff. And I do that for a couple people if they're having conventions, because you never know who might see it and come check you guys out up there,
Oh, yeah, no, certainly. I mean, and I'll be, hyping it on my page and everything. If I recall, you're not on Facebook that regularly. Am I correct?
Oh, I'm on it all the time.
All right. Well, then if you should get, first of all, I don't know if you're on my social media list on Facebook.
Might not be. I know we're Facebook friends, but I don't know if I'm on the list there.
Well, for friends, you should be. I'll have to double check. But the point is simply that I'm out there. Almost all my social media is Facebook. And I was one of these people who was incredibly skeptical about social media especially when Facebook just first started, and I realized that many people, including businesses, were just buying thousands or hundreds of thousands of likes and things like that to be able to claim they had a following. And so I felt very cynical about it, but I have to admit it made me more aware of how many people actually did like my movies from the 80s. And the fact is now I have fans all over the world I'm in touch with that. I'm very grateful that has changed my whole perspective on the tragedy of what happened when we made the film. Spookies.
Oh, it can be a great tool for just learning more about trailers or your favorite actors and certain influence, stuff like that. But it also is accessible, especially in the horror community. Your stuff kind of gets buried underneath the algorithm because it's not talking about what's trending.
No, I mean, you have to put up with that. But for me, it's worked, and it's not like I've even put enormous effort into it. So it's the kind of thing where I've realized that I'm trying to do so many things at once and that I've written the script for this new project. I'm now in the development stage. I'm circulating it. I've started to put sort of a bunch of people together as a sort of a staff until we get the first money, and that alone just takes so much time. I mean, I'm constantly busy.
Well, if there's anything I can help you with, just shoot out a text and I can share whatever I got to do.
Yeah, no, you've talked to me about that before, and I'm going to be taking people up on these offers soon. Right now, I'm just trying to boil it down to, all right, what are the things that I absolutely have to do myself, and what could I maybe hand off to somebody? And in many cases, that may just be something as simple as like, all right, I need to get information. Can you just like research a subject to get certain information? Can you find right now? Shortly, I'm going to be looking at. And this changes every month at this point, but more and more companies are starting to decide they should add horror movies to their schedules and their rosters. So you've got and this was something that the last time I remember seeing it is back in the 80s, to tell the truth, where you would get like the trade papers announcing all the movies in production, and there were just dozens and dozens of horror movies everywhere. And now, every company that's trying to make money is either if it's super low budget stuff. Mostly horror movies. I personally, for years I've wondered, if you're going to make a low budget movie, why would you make like a rom-com or or a serious drama? Because almost nobody's going to see it. People do, so I guess there's an audience. But
there is a medication to take.
I couldn't tell you on that one. I really couldn't. But yeah, well, I appreciate you coming out here, man. We'll let you get out of here. And if you want to come by in a couple months, we'll keep in touch or whatnot if you're cool with that. Yeah. And
I'll send you the stuff that I threatened to send you, and have that to talk about. And at the moment, I'm just what I should add as a final touch here is I'm just very grateful that things have gone in the direction that they have. That I did to a point where I saw my work, especially with Spookies. I mean, Street Trash is another matter. Street Trash has been sort of a cult favorite since the time it came out. But with Spookies, it was the worst part of my early filmmaking career, because it's a first feature film should lead you upward, and it led nowhere at the time, unfortunately. But that's changed, and I'm now talking to people about financing a sequel.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes into the whole case of or silver linings, where everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean?
See, I'm a big believer that is not true.
Really?
Things happen for a reason. Well, what reason?
It depends. I don't. That's a separate thing, I suppose. I guess it was a bad choice of words, but I guess maybe you had such a bad experience with the first one, and now you said you're grateful for the way it happened. I mean, how things can change.
Fitting justice, but I don't think things went bad the first time around for a reason. I mean, the reason that those were just the breaks and the circumstances at the time, really.
Yeah.
Things can go in all kinds of different directions. And I think as I've gotten older, I've been able to deal with the psychological aspects of it, because for years, I think myself and the guys that I made Spookies with felt like, all right, we put so much effort into this, it really should have taken off. And then the film got, rearranged, turned into something else. We did not get any recognition. If we got any recognition, it was negative.
Yeah. Well, maybe that reason hasn't been displayed yet. Yeah, I just try. That's just my mentality, thinking it's been surviving.
The fans that like the movie, I mean, people come up to me all the time and tell me they love Spookies. It's so great, and it's like, oh, okay. I'm who am I to argue?
Yeah, I felt bad about that in our first phone call with you on that one. So still, I apologize for that.
Well, it was during the years that we were dealing with the immediate that it was bad, because it felt like or what do we do now? Because now if we continue to try and raise finance for films, they'll say, all right, well, what's your track record? And we have to point to this film that did us no good in the first place. And so it somehow made up for it. It found its audience, amazingly.
Well, I mean, going back to the other one, Street Trash, hopefully I get my Blu-ray fix and I can finish watching it, because that one is well known. When I did my Gory Goodies after picking it up.
The film, I mean, even though I did not write, I was one of the writers of the script in Spookies. I didn't write Street Trash, but there was an atmosphere and a whole a cohesion of like everything being very open. Like if you were part of the production, you were encouraged to contribute ideas or to help contribute to the overall quality and bizarreness of the film. And so it was creatively, it was more freeing in many ways for me than Spookies was.
Yeah. Well, at least you had a positive experience on that one.
Yeah, and that film, almost from the start, it got a lot of negative reviews because it was the kind of movie that people are just going to have a negative reaction to.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like cutesy and family friendly, but at the same time, it's got it's got fans all over the world. I can't tell you how many proud parents tell me about how they just showed Street Trash to their kids for the first time. And Street Trash is a movie that when I was under 18, my parents would have gone out of their minds if they knew I had seen Street Trash.
Yeah, my parents after a while got a little lenient because I just kept bugging them. I want to watch it, and then because I started mine off with a lot of people my age, USA Up All Night, watching Edited for Television, Channel 43, and all these other television stations. And then after it got a little bit older, they were like, just like, all right, just rent whatever you want. We don't care. I can pretty much guarantee they would have made Street Trash wait till I was 17.
Yeah, beyond what you can. Street Trash, you even though it did have a couple of cable showings after it came out, it was not that frequently seen on cable and satellite until fairly recently.
I can't imagine why.
Well, the obvious reason, but just bear in mind, it was done as totally intended to be in bad taste and to be questionable and to be, it's not like we were looking to offend people, but we just come up with the wildest stuff we could, and some of it's going to offend people.
That's one of the reasons I loved it, man. It pushes boundaries. I love that shit.
I mean, it's the only film I've done that's been remade. So.
A lot of people were asking about that when I picked it up and asked me if there was the remade version. I haven't seen that one. I barely saw the first one. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in touch with Ryan Kruger, the director from South Africa. Yeah, and it's very different in a lot of ways. But I thought he made a sincere effort.
Well, once am able to finish the original one, maybe I'll check out the remake and do a comparison video for you.
Sounds good. And as I take my leave here. Thank you so much for having me on. Feel free to invite me back. We had a good talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope you do come back. I enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, I mean, let's do it again. And I would say, I'm hoping a few things. I was getting very depressed on Spookies 2 because I was not making progress. There were some issues I was having with one of the people I was working with. But since then, I have another person who came into things who's really picking up on things and helping me accomplish stuff and doing the things I just didn't have time to do. So all this is very hopeful to me at the moment.
All right. Well, I mean, as usual, like you saw, I'm going to add my name to that list of people who are saying if there's anything I can help with, even if you just want to text up and vent about some shit going on, man, my phone's always on and I'm single with no kids for a reason. you know? Well,
yeah. I mean, I'm not the type to just call someone up and say, hey, I need to complain.
I grew up on George Carlin. I'm used to complaining. I complain all the time. Ask Chad.
Oh, I complain too, but I won't vent on somebody. I won't proclaim that I'm going to. Maybe I'll just wind up doing it subconsciously anyway. And I'm usually very verbal and very expressive about these things. So,
all right. Well, we'll keep in touch with you then, and we'll have you back on here in a couple months or whatever amount of time, and we can update us on your progress.
That'll be fun.
Okay, all right. Well, that was Frank Farel, and I am a Brewster, and thank you for watching. This is Brewster Vision presents Brewsteria. Until next time, stay cool, freaky frighteners.